Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And today I want to talk about where do the whales go? Where do the highest spending, most competitive players go, and what do they do when there's nothing left to do in Marvel Future Fight? You've tier 2'd every character. You have all, 14 tier 3s. You've got so many CTPs, you make Cynicalex look like a beggar on the street. Where do you go from the top? Well, apparently there's another elevator up to the penthouse of Marvel Future Fight, and that is called the Alliance Tournament. And while you may know the kind of general overview of the Alliance Tournament, you may have even been in the Alliance Tournament before, and if you've been watching my channel for long enough, I've made a few videos about this, but this game mode is one of the least talked about game modes in Marvel Future Fight, and I can attest that this is the game mode that I've made the fewest videos about. So I wanted to cover it again, mostly because I haven't done it in a long time, and because now more than ever I refer to it with things like the tier list, things like the meta snapshot, where I put on the PvP side, you know, we got timeline battle, we got Alliance Conquest, and then that third one with a little championship kind of tournament, whatever this shit is called, trophy. I put the little trophy icon for the tournament. So that's what it means. That's what this is. This is the tournament. So I wanted to talk about it because it's more relevant now, and because we're in it, and I want to give my alliance some credit. I don't often flex about my alliance, and no offense to the alliance that we beat and the alliance that we're about to beat again, because we don't usually make it out of the first round. I'll be the humble guy in the room, and I'll say that usually the new meta does not make it out of the final 16. And I'm not even a big part of that because I don't do much of the behind-the-scenes work to get us to the Alliance Tournament. I'm just the guy leading the team with my dumb face. So I really want to just take 10 seconds here to shout out to the guys. You know who you are. I won't say your names to spoil our surprises, but you are the ones behind the scenes doing all the work, doing all the scouting, doing all the matchups that make these wins possible. Because there's actually a lot more to Alliance Tournament than just what I'm about to tell you. But what I'm about to tell you is kind of the beginning half of the Alliance Tournament. And it actually, you know, once you get into it, it's a fairly straightforward game mode with some nuance built into it that you can kind of take advantage of if you're the type of person. But essentially what the tournament is, it's like a match of Alliance Conquest where you have a 3 versus 3 brawl or kind of rumble, but instead of attacking someone who's, you know, set up a team that you can see, I mean, you do still attack someone with a team that you can see, but the team that you use is set throughout the entirety of the tournament. So instead of being able to throw multiple teams, instead of being able to send multiple players in your alliance to like chip down the enemy, it's just 40 separate 1 versus 1 battles. That's why every single opponent, every single enemy has a little attack icon, because you can only attack them once, and all the grayed out ones have been attacked. So every time a new round or a new kind of like, you know, quarterfinal, semifinal match begins, each team is given 40 attacks, 1 for each member of their alliance. And then, you know, so basically there's a total of 80 moves that are completed, and then based on the number of wins and losses, one team will advance. So very simply, this one over here, A-Force Avengers, out of 40 attacks, presuming all 40 members attacked, 35 of their members won. They won by either killing the enemy team or sometimes, and this happens a lot in the tournament, having more HP at the end. So this is actually a way of winning. It's also a way of winning in timeline battle, where instead of killing the other team, you just stall out for 5 minutes, and you just make sure that at the end of those 5 minutes, your overall HP pool for your 3 characters is higher than their overall HP pool. And that could literally come down to like 1%, but that will still be a win. Now there's a little bit more to it because each win is assigned a certain number of points. And so some teams will get this number of points but have a higher total point score because they had more convincing wins, i.e. like a 3 versus 0 complete wipe, whereas other teams will have a similar score. So let's say Heroes Legacy got 23 wins, but as you can see here, they only have 1,500 or 150,000 points. Now 150,000 points for 23 is quite a ways away from 270,000 points for 28. Again, not the best example, but here 20, and they got almost 130,000 points. One win less for Korean Assemble, but they have a lot, you know, they have over 200,000 points less. So if that kind of if that kind of shows you what I'm talking about a little bit. And there's probably better examples out there that you can go through and see, but that's basically what it comes down to. And this is another reason why you can see here, even if they had tied, let's say they'd both gotten 18, Dream would have presumably won because they would have had a higher overall point score relative to the tie here compared to Secret Avengers. So there is some nuance to it, and that is why a lot of whale accounts will end up prioritizing comic cards that have lots of HP. So that's why, believe it or not, for some Ultra Whales, I don't have very good cards. Because as you can see, although my cards are very good on the attack side, on the defense side, I have, very low HP. I only have about 9% max HP. I actually only have 6%. I get 3 from the extra collection bonus. If you were to go through and check some of these very high-level players, especially in some of the teams that, in some of the alliances that win a lot of tournament matches, i.e. Dream, Secret Avengers, sometimes even Invictus, and some of the older teams, Vietnam Destiny and stuff like that. If you go and you check out their players and you kind of scroll through some of their top competitors, and top players, and you can even go to the tournament overall and see. You can check out these guys, and they're the MVPs of the entire tournament. I'm guessing, and this is just a wild guess, they're going to have anywhere from 30 to 50% max HP on their cards. So there is definitely nuance to it, but it basically boils down to anticipating who you should use on your team of 3 and having as many players who can emulate the exact same team. And this is where it gets kind of tricky, because you need essentially 40 players who have similar accounts. Because if one team is going to dominate, i.e., Captain Marvel, Thanos, and Strife, you want as many teams, you want as many of your players in your alliance to be able to copy that exact lineup and to be able to copy the same obelisks or CTPs, the same type enhancement, the same ISO 8 set, the same Uru, because if it works once, it will theoretically work 40 times. Now, there's obviously some randomness to it, but that's basically what it boils down to. And this week in particular is quite it's kind of the most obvious example of what's right and what's wrong with Alliance Tournament, because every team is basically exactly the same. I mean, we are going with a different strategy than Heroes Legacy, but if you see here, they've got Strife, Thanos, and Captain Marvel, and then the next guy, Strife, Thanos, and Deadpool. There's a little bit of variation, but otherwise, it's the exact same team, copied and pasted. And that's because there are no restrictions. Now, like Timeline Battle, there are restrictions every week. That's a very unusual team. But the restrictions are only 5 characters, and usually the restrictions, usually the restrictions only have 1 or 2 very meta characters. So sometimes the restrictions are like Agent Venom, who is never used, Odin, who is never used, Groot, who is never used, and then like Thanos and Wolverine. Thanos is very, popular to be used. Wolverine is semi-popular, but basically, you're still left with a lot of the staple characters. Strife, of course, Deadpool, of course, Captain Marvel, of course, and you can even go down to Quicksilver and a couple of these other characters. Or they'll have another ban list with like Jean Grey, Wasp, and then 3 characters that no one ever uses and is never even going to be considered for the tournament ever in the first place. So the ban lists are very small. It's only 5 characters, and the ban lists have almost never changed. There was one change maybe about a year ago where they introduced Jean Grey into the ban list, but since then they've never banned characters like Strife, the newer characters. I mean, of course, Captain Marvel's never been banned because she was never banned before. Doctor Doom, will probably never be banned. And so there's very little variation, and you could probably count on one hand the number of unique teams that you'll ever see in a tournament these days. And that makes it easier to plan, but it also makes it much more frustrating when you see identical teams going up against each other and there's wildly different results. And that's basically the cause of RNG. And the cause of RNG is because, as you're about to see, I don't get to do anything. Let me just take a quick break to find out who I'm actually supposed to fight. I'll explain to you why that matters, and then we'll go into the actual fight. So I'm back, and I figured out who I'm supposed to attack. Sorry, Chuck Jew, you're going to be in this video. And so I'm not going to get into the details of why I was selected to go up against this particular character, but essentially the way that it works is you scout the other team, you figure out where their strong teams are and where their weak teams are, and you have the existing information of who your stronger players are and who your weaker players are in terms of their cards, in terms of their character setups and their character stats, and then you try to match your best against their worst to try to get as many wins as possible. But all of that takes hours of time, and then the problem is that it's kind of unsatisfying at the end of the day because it's completely auto. If you guys have never seen Alliance Tournament, this is how it rolls out. I have literally no control over the match, and I have to just cross my fingers and hope that my 700,000 HP Thanos is now going to be able to take on 3 different characters because Strife and Wasp decided to die in the first 5 seconds. Now, I'm looking a little bit nicer here because I've almost got, it's now a one-on-one, and I think I have the advantage, but we're going to have to wait and see how this rolls out. But this is 100% RNG at this point, and, you know, it's not 100% RNG, but my build has only so far to go, and I think this is basically coming down to now a race between who gets to their tier 3 skill first. So I don't know if I was interrupted more or if he was interrupted more. We got the win there without pulling off the tier 3 skill, which is quite impressive. And yeah, I could say that this win was due to my Deadpool, is due to my Thanos having a higher build with more base HP. It could also be that my team had better stats because the enemy team had Strife in the leadership position, which means they only got the debuff, and it also doesn't have Wasp. My team has Wasp, which gives the whole team a 10% HP buff, and has Thanos' leadership, which means that Thanos himself was getting a 36% attack and 36% all defense buff. So maybe if I didn't have Strife in the leadership position, or sorry, if I did have Strife in the leadership position, if I didn't have Thanos, my Thanos would have died with less defense, and then maybe he wouldn't have been able to kill the enemy Thanos with less offense, and maybe I would have just straight up died without the 10% from Wasp. So, was it luck? Was it my Thanos' build? Was it the person who does, like the super scout on our team who decides the matchups and chose this sort of combination of characters, Wasp for the debuff, Strife for damage and fracture, and then Thanos lead? Or is it some combination of all 3? I don't really know. Am I happy that we're winning? Absolutely. Do some of these victories feel hollow because I'm not controlling my characters? Yes. Is it super frustrating when I lose both my attack and my defense? And I'm not going to try to hide it from you guys. I lost my attack, and when they attacked me, I lost my defense. So I was basically 0 for 2 in the last matchup. I didn't contribute much. I gave them a point, and I didn't earn back a point for us. So, you know, I won here, I lost there. Who's to say what's really going on? I don't honestly know. Do I want them to change Alliance Tournament? Hell fucking yeah. This is one of the worst and laziest game modes in Marvel Future Fight, and it services some of the highest paying players in the game. Now, am I saying that just because you pay lots of money to play Marvel Future Fight, you should have the best game modes? No. But would it make a bit more sense for Netmarble to care a bit more about this game mode and to make it more skill-based and less RNG-based, considering these players, some of which are paying thousands of dollars every month just to stay at the very, very top of the list? I'm looking at you, Dream. Yeah, I would say that it would make sense. So I don't really want to make this into a soapbox sort of rant moment, but it is frustrating when you know all of that information and then you get into the tournament and you're like, hey, this is just Conquest, but it's shittier. Because you only get to play with one team out of your roster of 188 characters. You only get to play with 3, one exact team, and you know, live or die, you're just gonna lose based on the roll of the dice at the end of the day because you can't control your characters. So I wanted to give you guys a renewed insight into Alliance Tournament. My attitudes on it haven't really changed. When it first came out, way back near the beginning of my YouTube career, my reaction was, this game mode looks cool, but it sucks that only 16 teams get to play in it. And my reaction in that sense has not changed. I think it's very stupid that only 16 teams get to play Alliance Tournament, and I think the Alliance Tournament should be available to everyone in the game, and that they should separate alliances by their percentage. So the alliances in the top 1% will compete in different brackets, you know, 2 to 5%, 6 to 10%, and so on and so forth, and have it kind of like Alliance Conquest. And then Alliance Conquest should be more of a one-on-one situation like an Alliance War. That's honestly how I think Alliance Tournament should be. If they wanted to do something for the Ultra Whales, they can come up with something better. But this random Barbie fight that doesn't even get to be controlled by your own characters is honestly beyond ridiculous. And it shows, this is one of the last ugly game modes in Marvel Future Fight, and it shows how dated this game is in some way. Don't even get me started on the rewards, because they're paltry. Paltry is a word for very fucking bad. I don't know why I use such an expensive word, but yeah. So that's the Alliance Tournament. Let me know what you guys think. Let's have a conversation down below in the comments, shall we? Twitter, Discord, etc. Hit me up. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.